The Mississippi House of Representatives is now in session. Please let the House come to order. Please stand as we're led in prayer today by a guest minister to be introduced by the gentleman from Noxubee, and remain standing thereafter for the pledge.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the House. The gentleman that's going to bring us to the throne of grace this afternoon, he's the pastor of the Sunday Mount Giles Church in Scuba, Mississippi. He's been pastoring for over 20 years. He served on the Columbus City Council as vice mayor. He's been serving on the council in Columbus for 14 years. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I present to you the Reverend Joseph Mickens, Sr., who just happened to be related to me.
All hearts and minds clear. Heavenly Father, you are the King of kings and the Lord of lords. You bless your people who honor you and serve you here today. Lord, I ask that you bless this great state of Mississippi as our leader who are embarking on a new season of lawmaking today. Father, today I pray that for my state and for all who live in it, give our leader your knowledge, your wisdom, your understanding. Help them to fear you and honor you. Let them also render justice to your people. Let your righteousness fill our state. Father, I pray for our governor of this great state of Mississippi, leading him in making decisions that will benefit all Mississippians. Father, we thank you for who you are. I pray for the people of our great state, the works of their hand. Let our state overflow with milk and honey. Let our barns be filled. Let our young people find peace and contentment. Let your joy rule their heart. Let your peace rule their lives. Father, we just thank you for who you are. I pray for this great nation. Thank you for these United States and this government. Father, I pray for the president of this great nation and our leaders in Washington. Father, I pray for all our local government. I pray for our service members, our active and retired. In my closing, Father, I pray that your word multiply in our capital today, so that our leader may choose unity and cooperation according to your plan and purpose. I pray that they accomplish those things that you want them to accomplish in their session. I invoke your spirit over their body of leader. I pray that you keep them. I pray that you for the truth. I praise you for sending your darling son to save us from sin and death. Lord, we thank you for extending your grace, granting your freedom, providing your protection, and empowering us with your strength. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Close the machine, Madam Clerk.
There's a quorum present, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We'll have the reading of the journal. Gentleman from Rankin moves we dispense with the reading of the journal. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Report of select committees.
We have none, Mr. Speaker.
Report of standing committees.
We have reports to the counter, Mr. Speaker.
Introductions of bills and constitutional amendments. Gentleman from Marion, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading of the introductions.
Is there objection? Hearing none, we will do that. Resolution, petitions, memorials, and other papers.
We have none, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, we'll have the introductions of guests and visitors. Gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Zuber.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of myself, Representative John Reed, Representative Charles Busby, and Representative Jeff Geis, I would like for you and the other members of the House to please help me make welcome the best mayor and board of aldermen in the great state of Mississippi, Kenny Holloway, Ken Papania, Kevin Wade, Ricky Arthurman, and Jennifer Burgess. Thank you.
A lady from Panola, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, if you would, please help me make welcome in the North Gallery some of the most amazing supervisors that we could have within our state. Supervisor Chad Weaver, Supervisor Billy Saunders of Tate County, and Supervisor Earl Burdett, who just stepped out. Please make them welcome.
Gentleman from Montgomery, Mr. Oliver.
Introduction, Mr. Speaker. I'd like the House to help me make welcome today my former seatmate, the gentleman from Warren County, who's now in the serving as alderman for the city of Vicksburg, my friend Alex Mansour.
Gentleman from Tishomingo, Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Introduction. In the North Gallery, please help me make welcome the Mayor of Iuka, Joel Robertson, and Alder Lady, Ms. Kay Perkins. In the South Gallery, I have Supervisor 5th District, Mr. Greg Collier. Thank y'all for coming down.
Gentleman from Jones, Mr. Scoggin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are truly blessed today and honored to have 5 folks from Jones County visitors, 4 supervisors, 4 of the 5 supervisors in the South Gallery, Mr. Larry Dykes, Mr. Phil Dickerson, Mr. Johnny Burnett, and Mr. David Scruggs. If y'all would stand and wave. And then also the doctor of the day today is Dr. Teresa Camp Rogers, who is the Chief Quality Officer at South Central Regional Medical Center in Laurel. Thank y'all.
The lady from Hines, Ms. Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, please help me welcome 2 of the Yazoo County Board of Supervisors, Lee Moore representing District 1 and David Chip representing District 4 in the South Gallery.
The lady from Panola, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you again, Mr. Speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, I excluded Supervisor Darrell Riggs. I do apologize. Thank you so much for your service. Please make him welcome.
Gentleman from Pearl River, Mr. Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please join myself and the entire Pearl River County delegation in welcoming our supervisors, Jason Spence and Sandy Kane Smith in the North Gallery, along with our economic development team, Christy Goss, and Lindsay Ward. We also have our Chancery Clerk, Melinda Bowman, and her husband, Joe, here. Please join me in welcoming to the House chamber today.
Gentleman from Holmes, Mr. White.
Introduction, Mr. Speaker. I'd like you in the House to help me make welcome in the North Gallery. We have city officials here from Kosciuszko, my hometown. We have Mayor Tim Kyle and Alderman at Large Earl Price. I want to welcome them to their capital today.
All right, do we have any further introductions? I don't see any. We will go to the calendar. I don't see the chairman of, oh, there he is. We'll go to the Ways and Means calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would go to the Ways and Means calendar, call up item 1, House Bill 531, make the usual motion.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended, bill considered and grossed read a 3rd time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye, opposed nay, ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, What you have before you in House Bill 531 is a bill that's no stranger to this body. It's a bill that has been debated, an issue, a topic that was debated heavily last year. This is the 2022 version of the Mississippi Tax Freedom Act. And I will save you some big fancy speech. I'm going to go through a few of the 4 or 5 issues. I'll just say that the bill this year is much simpler, easier to understand, and I would state to you an improved product over the bill that passed overwhelmingly in this body last year. So you should have a copy of the fiscal note. That's what I'm going to be presenting from today. You should have that in front of you. You'll see that the Legislative Budget Office has prepared a 6-page fiscal note. The first 5 pages are a general summary, section by section of the bill. And then the last page projects the finances if the bill were to become law through FY24. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill has about 3 or 4 main parts. The first part is this bill would eliminate the income tax for the working people of this state in its entirety when fully implemented. Right out of the gate, as the bill last year, it will exempt the first $40,000 of income for a single individual and $80,000 of income for a married couple. In addition to that, it will provide a 35% reduction in ad valorem car tax across the state, while at the same time making our counties whole for that money. In addition, the grocery tax will be reduced from 7% where it is now. It will be reduced 1.5 cents in year 1 and will go down to 4 cents where it will stop in year 5. The last part of the bill increases the general sales tax rate in this state from 7% to 8.5 cents. I would like to add, for a little perspective, that every state around us, Alabama, Tennessee, Louisiana, and Arkansas, the sales tax in those states averages approximately 9.5 cents. So we would remain at this level, we would remain with our general sales tax rate 1% lower than every state around us. That is an explanation of the bill. The first part of the bill. The second part of the bill contains the remaining phase out of the income tax with the same growth triggers that we had last year. Growth plus 1.5%, everything over, revenue collected over and above growth plus 1.5% is what would be used to buy down the income tax as we go forward. Based on historical numbers, that would happen in approximately 10 to 12 years. At that point in time, the state of Mississippi would no longer have an income tax. And Mr. Speaker, that is an explanation of the bill.
Any questions? Lady from Hines, Ms. Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of questions. I am really hoping that my dad is going to retire soon.
Yes, ma'am.
He's over 70 years old. I'm telling him he needs to sit down somewhere. But how would this package benefit retirees?
How would it benefit them? Does he drive a car?
Yes, he
Then
does drive a car.
it would certainly benefit him. It would give him a 35% reduction on his car tag every single year. In addition, I'm sure he buys groceries, and it would reduce his grocery tax ultimately from 7 cents down to 4 cents.
Would it put any more money back in his pocket with the elimination of the state income tax?
Well, it depends on if he pays income tax. There's an illusion out there that if you hit a certain age, you don't pay income tax. That's not true. Social Security doesn't pay income tax, and PERS doesn't pay income tax. Qualified retirement accounts don't pay income tax. But I have a lot of people, I don't know about everybody else's district, I have a lot of people that are age 65, and they still work in my district. I'm sure y'all have some folks like that too, and maybe your daddy's the same way where he still works. And if he's earning money, it don't matter if he's 100, he's still responsible for income tax on that money that he earned. And so if he has earned income, then yes, it certainly would benefit him.
Okay. And I know that we have made a lot of money in the state this year. Is there any other pot of guaranteed money that would replace this elimination should we not make the kind of revenue that we've seen in the future? You have any?
Well, lady, I would point you to the last page of the fiscal note, and the fiscal
Okay.
note points to fiscal year '23, and it shows after the implementation of the income tax cut, approximately 800, let me get that number exactly for you. It's approximately $815 million in surplus revenue, taking into account the cut in FY '24, and it's almost $200 million in FY '24. It's FY '23 and '24.
That's a huge reduction. That's about,
No, ma'am, that's a surplus.
I'm talking about between the fiscal years.
Yes, ma'am, because the FY '24 is the full implementation year. You see, the first year is just half of 6 months.
Okay.
So that's right.
Gotcha. Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the proper time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, now's the proper time. I don't see any further questions.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, sir.
if, I'll defer to you, but if we would, there is a cleanup amendment that I also offer as well.
Okay,
I'd
we'll
like to
take
do
your
that.
amendments first then.
Thank you.
It may address the concern of the lady. You're recognized.
This amendment is simply a cleanup to the bill. The original bill had the counties being reimbursed once a year, annually, in August. And after looking at it a little closer, we decided to move this to a monthly reimbursement. It's the same dollar amount, it just would change the amount or the timing of when the counties are reimbursed from the tag credit.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. Do you have a second amendment?
I do not, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. All right, I'll recognize the lady from Hines for her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I ask that the Madam Clerk please read the amendment?
Madam Clerk's recognized to read the amendment.
Amendment number 2 by Representative Summers, amend by inserting the following after line 7284. Any taxpayer allowed to claim a federal earned income tax credit under the 26 U.S.C. Section 32 should be allowed a refundable credit against the taxes imposed under this chapter in the manner prescribed in this section. The amount of the credit should be equal to 15% of the amount of the federal credit allowed under this section. If the amount of the credit claimed by a taxpayer exceeds the amount of income imposed upon the taxpayer for that taxable year, it will be reduced by the sum of all other credits allowed. To obtain the credit provided for this in this section, a taxpayer must claim the federal credit in Section 32 of the taxpayer's federal income tax return and must provide a copy of such return and any other information required by the Department of Revenue. Amend the title to conform.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Essentially, what this amendment would do, ladies and gentlemen, is allow our working families to put a little bit more money back in their pockets. I know that the Speaker and many of you have worked so hard on this package, and I just want to add a little bit more credit to that. So it would provide a state earned income tax credit that would be 15% of whatever they receive from their federal earned income tax credit. This would especially help poor and working class people. It would add an additional boost to working families. We know that the pandemic has had some hardship on the families that we represent. And so by adding this to the package that we will vote on today, we're making a small investment, but a very large difference for the working families in the state of Mississippi. And I ask for your support on this amendment.
Questions? Gentleman from DeSoto, Mr. Criswell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the lady yield?
Yes, sir.
I'm really just trying to figure out, I listened to the explanation. Would this be money back that they paid in as income tax?
Yes. So this would be a credit, and if the money exceeds what they get, it would be a refund.
So in refund, you mean I mean, if the credit is more than they paid in, they would get more money than they paid in for taxes.
Say that one more time.
If the credit that you're talking about is greater than their original tax, they would end up with more money back than they paid in?
They would, yes, they would receive a credit. So for example, if they paid, if the federal earned income tax credit was $1,000, then they would receive 15% of that for the state earned income tax credit, which would be a credit. So that would be, y'all help me with the math. I'm a journalist, not a mathematician, but it would be $150,
So
is that correct? And that would be a credit to their taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions? I don't see any. Recognize the chairman to close or respond.
Thanks to the lady, Mr. Speaker. I would just say I certainly understand what the lady is trying to do, and she wants to provide further tax relief and help to the people. The problem I have with it is the first time I've seen it, and we have spent, and LBO has spent a tremendous amount of time and resources on the fiscal note that all of you have in front of you, and standing here before you today, I have no idea what the amount of the money that it would cost to do what the lady has proposed. And so I certainly will continue to work with her. If there's any way we can include it as this bill makes it through the process, I'd be willing to do that. But what I'd ask y'all to vote down the amendment and let's keep a clean bill so that when it leaves this body, we know the true cost of the bill at that time. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any questions. Recognize the lady to close on her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the chairman saying he's willing to work with me on this, but I do have a little pushback to the first thing he said, which was this was the first time he's heard of it, because this is the first time that I've seen the package that was passed yesterday as well, when I got the summary put on my desk 30 minutes before session. So, you know, we've voted on things quicker than that, so I would appreciate your support on this amendment. Thank you.
All right, question now recurs on amendment number 2. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The noes have it, noes have it. Amendment fails. I don't see any further amendments. Anything further on the bill, Mr. Chairman? Anything further, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, just in closing, I'd like to add a few comments. Everybody in this body knows that the state of Mississippi's population was flat. We found ourselves after this last census in a category that none of us really were envious of being in. We didn't ask for it. We have young people leaving our state and not coming back, despite all the good things that we've done over the last 10 plus years since I've been here. I would tell you, though, that I believe it's time for historic, transformative, game-changing legislation in this state. And what a better time than right now, when we have historic tax revenue in this state to return a significant portion of the money back to the hardworking people of this state. And that's what this bill does. This bill is absolutely transformative. We would do something that very few states have ever done, and we become the 10th state in the union to have no income tax. That is an amazing legacy. We can provide the largest tax cut in our state's history, and we can still provide for the needs of government at record levels. The end result would be a tax code that rewards work and is fair for everyone. Lastly, I would just say this. 15 years from now, I would not want to be the elected official who is solely responsible for us having an income tax in this state. I wouldn't want that to be my legacy. Let's let our legacy be that we push forward with transformative change to end the tax on work in this state. Mr. Speaker, I'll close with that.
All right, question now recurs members on House Bill 531? Open the machine, Madam Clerk. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 96 yeas and 12 nays, the bill passes. Next item, appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the House Appropriations Calendar, Item 1, House Bill 530. I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Harrison, Mr. Bennett, to explain the bill.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules to be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Speaker.
Excuse me, gentlemen, before you get started. Lady from Forest, Ms. McGee, do you have an introduction?
I do. Introduction out of order, please, sir.
Well, we by all means want to get it in.
Absolutely. We don't want to miss. I've got two Forest County Board of Supervisors here with us, Chris Bowen and David Hogan. Would y'all please help me make these guys welcome?
Gentleman from Kemper, Mr. Evans.
Introduction, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Members of the House, we and back here sitting with us, we have a great honor recognizing a lightweight, heavyweight boxing champion, one of the only supervisors that actually stand up and fight for his people, the Honorable Cordell Calhoun.
I've been watching what he's dealing with over there. I bet some days he wishes he's back over here. Gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Zuber.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in addition to the Ocean Springs Mayor and Board of Aldermen being here, we also have our supervisor, Mr. Troy Ross, in the North Gallery. Help me make him welcome.
Gentleman from Tunica, Mr. Burnett.
Speaker, I would like to introduce a couple of delegates from Tate County and Tunica County. But in the North Gallery, we have Mr. O'Connor, which is a supervisor, Tony Sandage, who is a supervisor, and we have the mayor of Coldwater, Mr. Billingsley, and we also have Mr. Supervisor with the yellow shirt, blue blazer, brown pants, and I can't think of his name. Because I only met him twice in my life, but that's him on the front row. I'd like to make them feel at home.
Jim from Lauderdale, Mr. Young. Oh, I'm sorry, you got one more? Go ahead.
Side, we have the mayor of Tunica County and the Board of Aldermen, Lee Turner and Andrew Dulaney, who is the mayor. They're on the north side. Make them feel at home.
Jim from Lauderdale, Mr. Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the distinguished pleasure of introducing members of our Lauderdale County Board of Supervisors in the South Gallery. We have Supervisor Jonathan Wells and Supervisor Josh Todd. Please make them welcome.
Jim from Marion, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you would, I'd like to pay attention to the North Gallery, to the longest serving supervisor on board right now in Marion County, Mr. Calvin Newsom, who is also president of the board this year.
All right, I don't see any further introductions. I recognize the gentleman to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is known as the START Act of 2022. This is House Bill 530. This gives our Board of Supervisors the largest raise that they have seen in it. No. Just thought it'd be a good time to do that, Mr. Speaker. No, this is the teacher's pay raise. This is the START Act. This is, a lot of you have already heard the details of this. We presented it in Appropriations yesterday. This is probably one of the most significant piece of legislations or historical pieces of legislation that this body has taken up in many years of ever. This is a significant raise. It is a raise that will get our teachers, our starting teachers, to the southeastern average, above the southeastern average, and to and above the national average. Where we've had a problem for years is our teachers starting off is at a disadvantage, especially by the states. And I thought we had a graph up on the board, but anyway, especially the states around us, we were not competitive with. And teachers that, okay, thank you. Average starting pay for first-year Mississippi teachers in the 1920 school year was $36,543, which is behind the pay for first-year teachers in both the southeastern average and the United States. Notably, if you look up Alabama, Louisiana, where many Mississippi teachers have reported moving to for higher paying jobs, where the pay is starting off at $41,800 and $42,500. This is where we lose a tremendous amount of our teachers, especially in Alabama. A young teacher can go across state line and start for $7,000 or more. And what we have going on is we have our teachers going to Alabama, going to Tennessee, and going to Louisiana. And then, like in the 11th year of their teaching, Mississippi kind of catches up. So we've adjusted the scales, and then they jump over and get back into our retirement system. So we've had to adjust our scales so that we can get those teachers to stay in Mississippi and raise the average. This is a huge commitment by the legislature. And we're going to, in this bill, other than raising that, every teacher in Mississippi will get a minimum of a $4,000 raise. The majority of them will get a $6,000 raise. That's a tremendous amount of money. Also, I'm going to go through just a couple of the highlights here. I have some talking points here. I have about 3 or 4 pages of talking points. I'm not going to go through those. If anyone wants a copy of this, they can have a copy of what is written here. We believe the solution to keeping and retaining our teachers is by the salaries. 50% of all teachers who go into teaching leave the profession. 50% leave the profession in the first 5 years. Whenever you talk to students who are going to college and you ask why they're not going into teaching, it is the number one reason is the pay. That's the number one reason they don't go in the profession in Mississippi. So we're trying to adjust that. Don't forget, we are in competition with these other states for our teachers. The best and the brightest are being pulled to these other states, and I understand that it is a big lift, and I understand that we have low wages across the board in other areas of the state of Mississippi. 10 years ago, and I'm going to say when Philip Gunn became Speaker of the House, and this isn't about the Speaker, but when he became the Speaker of the House, he said number one thing was to raise Mississippi from the bottom of being last in Mississippi. We were number 50. We were made fun of by other states. We've gone from number 50 in the nation to number 35 in test scores for our students. That's tremendous. We've had 14 states come visit Mississippi and see what we were doing, what is happening. Our kids on poverty, our kids and our minority kids have outperformed all other states. That's how far we have come. I'm going to say that again. Our kids in poverty, our minority kids, have outperformed all the other kids in the United States. That's a tremendous thing. And the teachers have done this in the classroom. The teachers are under a lot of pressure today. It's not the teacher of 20 years ago. It's not the teacher of 25 years ago. They're under a lot of pressure to perform today. The third grade reading gate was one of the programs that we implemented in the state of Mississippi. And I'll tell you, I had some hesitancies too at first. And everybody said, well, you're going to retain these kids. There's no way we're going to get these kids moved to the 4th grade. And we set the bar at a reasonable but low level. Those kids made it. 98% of the kids got out of there. The kids that didn't pass the test to start off with, we're giving coaches, we're giving extra help to get them there, which is what should have been done. The next year we raised the bar, and we raised the bar the following year till we got above the national average of what we expected our 3rd graders to do. And expectations is a lot of it. Expectations in the classroom from the teacher, expectations from the students, expectations from the parents. These kids are now moving on to the 4th grade, having what they need to succeed. This is something that is only fair for these students. It's not that someone's trying to make it hard on them. Someone's trying to retain them. And we know they can do it. And a large percentage of our kids, we found out, that originally failed the test to start off with had eye problems, needed glasses. So these things that we have put in place that look like they were obstacles were actually things to move Mississippi forward. More than moving Mississippi forward, to give these kids a chance to get out of poverty, to give these a chance to succeed. So now I think for us to turn around and acknowledge these teachers and reward these teachers, I don't know if you want to call it a reward, but to give these teachers not what they deserve, because they deserve a lot more. They earn a lot more. But this is what the taxpayer of Mississippi can afford. This is a lot of money. This is something that we can afford. This isn't something that I threw out there and said, hey, look, let's give the teachers a $202 million pay raise. This is something that we work with LBO, our professionals here, that tell us what we can and can't afford. We as individuals rely on them. This is something they said we can do moving forward. This is not a one-time money. This is a reoccurring expense. We're not using one-time money to fund this. We just passed a tax overhaul. I've got to tell you, Speaker Gunn, Jason White, Trey Lamar, they have worked hand in hand with us on this to make sure that we were able to give the teachers this pay raise, that we could afford this, and made sure that what they were doing in that tax bill was going to be something that we could sustain and would move us forward. With that, I think most of y'all have seen this bill. You know what we're giving them. Like I said, I have talking points here if anyone wants them. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would entertain any questions.
Any questions? Gentleman from Lafayette, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Do you yield?
Yes, gentlemen.
I appreciate you taking my questions. I just want to say up front, I love teachers. I love all teachers. I love my child's public school teachers, and I'm still in touch with my teachers and coaches on a regular basis. So they mean the world to me and my children. I also love people in every other profession in our state. And so the questions I'm asking is for those that are in every other profession in the state. Are you aware this increase, which is over and above our current budget, results in an amount equal to 0.5% of sales tax?
If you tell me that's the case, I'll agree.
Okay. It is, and this 209 to 250 million increase is equal to that. Are you aware that the highest paid teachers in the nation work in Washington, D.C.?
I would venture that to be true.
Are you aware that they are paid 17% below the average of the earner in the state of D.C.?
If you say so, I have not researched that.
It is true. Probably give or take a couple of percentages, but that's the most accurate figure I could come up with. Are you aware that Mississippi's teachers make 8.5% to 8.6% more than the average earner in the state.
I would think so, yes.
Do any other state employees other than teachers receive every year an automatic increase in their pay?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Do any other state employee, teachers are the only state employees to get a raise every year. They're the only ones. Are these, and I'm saying again, this is not just questions for teachers, this is questions for every other profession in the state. There's a lot of people looking at this that may say, this is deserved for the teachers, but we want the same. Those things will follow. Are these pay increases tied to performance in the classroom, or are they tied to degrees and certifications?
They're not tied to performance. All the teachers will get these pay raises.
Even the worst of them?
Even the worst of them.
Okay.
Say that the worst is bad. But
right. All right, so we are just setting the minimums today for the state, correct? Which is funded by the state's budget.
Yes.
We're setting the minimums, raising the minimums.
Yes, there's local supplements.
But every district pays their teachers differently, correct?
Some school districts give a local supplement, a lot do not.
But some school districts, based on our actions today, may possibly change what they pay in their supplement.
They cannot. The bill in here so that they cannot reduce that.
Now, or in the immediate future or in the distant future?
Pardon?
Can they change their supplement that they pay?
They can increase it, they cannot decrease it.
Never. From now until eternity or just immediately?
Right now.
Right now.
On this bill, no, but next year you come in here and change that. You got the vote, you can change it anytime.
Okay. That concludes my questions. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Gentleman from Humphreys, Mr. Strawder.
From Tallahatchie, the Yallabusha, Mr. Reynolds.
Well, all right, we'll go to you. I don't see the gentleman from Humphreys. You're
well, the reason, Mr. Speaker, someone else was in my seat at that time. And Mr. Chairman, you in the seat and the next to me are the two surviving members of the House that were here 40 years ago when we voted for the Education Reform Act. And gentlemen, are you aware that in the Education Reform Act, we put in the statute of this state, pledge that we would work toward achieving the Southeastern Regional salaries. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
And do you not think that if we do not make attempts, as I believe you're trying to do today, to achieve that end, that we will be stuck forever in last place in our region?
Absolutely.
And gentlemen, are you aware that in our region, a teacher or a young person can move to another state in our southeastern region and sometimes make $11,000, $12,000, $13,000 or $14,000 more just because they move to another area or another region and offer their services?
Absolutely, and that is our competition.
And gentlemen, let me ask you this. You know, you talk about teachers. Well, of course, my father was one, and others have been that have greatly influenced lives. Are you aware that in history, there's been no greater influence on the mind of man or the government than teachers? Socrates, Aristotle, people that shaped our very form of government. Our Jesus Christ, our spiritual was referred to as teacher. Absolutely. Are you aware that that profession is an elevated profession, and it is upon which all others are based?
Absolutely.
And gentlemen, if we do not as a state recognize the primacy of education, what exactly will be the future of our state, and how many young people will we bleed out of this state to train the Georgias and to train the Texas and the Tennessees and the other state of our region and country?
Absolutely. To move Mississippi up, we've got to move up in education. And let me say one thing before close. I don't know, is there any more questions?
It doesn't appear to be any more questions.
I want to say one thing about other state workers and all that stuff. I'm the education chair, and this is somewhat my responsibility. But absolutely, you're right. We're still trying to find ways to raise all of our employees in the state of Mississippi, and we're going to continue to work in that direction. That's the goal of this body and has been, and the goal of this body has been since I've been here, is to move us to the southeastern average and above. And with this bill, we do that, and I'm very proud of this bill. And I'm proud of this body because they have put education as a priority in the state of Mississippi, and today we're going to show that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Question now recurs. Madam Clerk, if we get the bill put back up there. Question now recurs on House Bill 530. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote 114 yeas and 6 nays, the bill passes.
Appropriations yields the floor.
Thank you, sir. Announcements, Mr. Clerk. Announcements, Madam Clerk.
On tomorrow, Appropriations Special Fund Subcommittee A will have a hearing with the Board of Public Contractors at 8:30 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee A will have a hearing with the Board of Registered Professional Geologists at 8:45 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee A will have a hearing with Board of Nursing at 9 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee A will have a hearing with the Board of Pharmacy at 9:15 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee A will have a hearing with the Board of Physical Therapy at 9:30 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee A will have a hearing with the Board of Examiners for Social Workers, Marriage and Family Therapists at 9:45 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee I will have a hearing with Tombigbee River Valley Water Management District at 2:45 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee I will have a hearing with the Pat Harrison Waterway at 3 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee I will have a hearing with the Tennessee Tombigbee Waterway Development Authority at 3:15 and 201A. This ends my committee announcements, Mr. Speaker.
Announcements by the members. Jump from Alcorn, Mr. Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Adjourn in memory. Longtime alderman for the city of Kossuth, Steve Jones, lost his battle this morning with colon cancer, so I would like to adjourn in his memory.
Jump from Montgomery, Mr. Oliver.
Announcement, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
I have on my desk over here the Second Amendment Preservation Act bill. If there's anyone that would like to sign on to it, it'll be sitting here for the next 5 or 10 minutes. Second Amendment Preservation Bill. Thank you.
Jump from the shovel, Mr. Bounds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, today we passed 2 transformational pieces of legislation, a historical. I've got another one sitting on my desk, the Conservation Stewardship Bill. We'd love to get everybody in the House to sign on it. The bill is still sitting on my desk. So let's send the Senate another bill, and let's see what they do with it. Thank you.
Jump from Simpson, Mr. Wallace.
Sir. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we're once again participating in the sale of junior champions with the Dixie National. $200, you can get it from your campaign account. It goes to a great cause. It helps these kids out. So I look forward to trying to get y'all to all participate this year. Thank you, sir.
Jim from Hines, Mr. Banks.
Mr. Speaker, adjourn in memory of, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for condolences. I'll get the form done, but today our colleague, Mr. Watson, lost his brother, and also Mr. Straughter lost his sister, both this morning.
Thank you, sir. We're sorry to hear that.
Please give me your condolences. Thank you.
Sorry to hear that. Our sympathies go out to both of them. Gentleman from Tallahatchie, Mr. Reynolds.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, in the North Gallery, I'm pleased to welcome our President of the Board of Supervisors of Yalobusha County, Mr. Casey Washington, and Mr. Eddie Harris, who is Supervisor of District 4, which includes the great cities of Coffeyville, Oakland, and the area all in between.
Gentleman from Rankin, Mr. Yancey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the House adjourns today, I'd ask that we do so in memory of Mr. Gary Jude Harkins. He's the father of the Senate Finance Chairman Josh Harkins. He passed away on April 24th, 2021. Very instrumental in mentoring me and others in Rankin County politics, and just ask that we adjourn in his memory.
Thank you, sir. Any further announcements? I don't see any. Recognize the gentleman from Octibbeha for the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move this House stand adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. House adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow.